foundation to make it possible for us to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and how much time they're spending raising money in order to do it. This package is what I mean by bold, not puny reform. It is this kind of bold reform, not the puny reform, that we should be pushing, because in my view, this would work to change the way this system functions. So that's the message, a message focused on corruption. Here's the method. It's a method that the wolf pack has embraced. Ken sitting over here, the wolf pack has embraced. So there's been enormous success in this progress towards petitioning our government to do the right thing. We write them letters in the form of resolutions. Resolutions say something like, "Dear Congress, please cure yourself, please, pretty please, pretty please." Those letters get filed. Sometimes they get filed in a circular filing cabinet. And my suggestion is we need to think about how we can act with more consequence. More consequence. And actually, Article 5, the provision in our Constitution that enables us to amend the Constitution, begins to have a map for how we could act with more confidence. Because when Article 5 was first drafted, the only means by which the amendments could be generated was by Congress proposing the amendments. And some clever soul said in the Constitutional Convention, hey, wait a minute, what if Congress is the problem? So that's a good point. So in addition to Congress proposing amendments, Article 5 embeds a procedure by which the states can call on Congress to call a convention. A convention which proposes amendments which, like the other amendments, are only valid if 3/4 of the states, 38 states, ratify. Now, there are two characteristics of this way of proceeding that I think are central. First, it is cross-partisan because people can be calling for a convention for any reason they want. And there is a strong conservative movement calling for a convention to address the problems of debt or the problems of balanced budget. Ideas that I don't have much sympathy for, but I do have sympathy for the idea that we need a way to address questions that isn't controlled by Congress. And it is also the only procedure that has actually in our history worked to peacefully bring about a fundamental change in the way the government is structured. Now you can say never before have we had a convention, that's true. But we've been close once. That was 100 years ago, 1911. When the Senate was still appointed by the legislatures and Congress was called upon to fix the Senate because people perceived that to be the core of the corruption inside of the system, and Congress refused to fix the Senate by refusing to send out an amendment that could be ratified to change the way the Senate was elected. And when the movement to call a convention was one state shy of the number it needed to call a convention, Congress was terrified. And Congress's terror quickly changed their refusal into an agreement to send out to the states an amendment that would eventually be the amendment that would make the Senate elected. So the very process of bringing about the movement for a constitutional Article 5 convention forced the change inside the system that those who pushed that convention wanted. And in this process, every new state that passes a resolution calling on Congress to call for a convention is one step closer to there being a convention. Every new state has consequence for the potential that is needed to bring about the pressure necessary